You know that feeling when you're just drowning in information, trying to get your head around something complex, but you just can't find that clear path. That's exactly why we do this. We take that big stack of sources, articles, notes, whatever it is, and we pull out the most important stuff for you. Today, we're diving into a piece of legislation. Now, I know legislation sounds a bit dry maybe, but stick with us because this one, the Conservation of Agricultural Resources Act of 1983, or CI as we'll call it, its impact is huge. Yeah, massive. On the land we live on, even the food we eat. So our mission today, to really unpack NPRA. What's its purpose? What are the key bits, the legal side, how it works in practice, and why it actually matters. Whether you're maybe studying environmental law or just curious, we'll make it clear, accessible, maybe even a bit engaging, balancing the legal terms with, plain language and real examples.
Absolutely. And it's formally the Conservation of Agricultural Resources Act 43 of 1983. Got sent back on April 24th, 1983, and then kicked into effect June 1st, 1984. And it hasn't just sat there gathering dust. It's had some significant updates, last big ones in November 96. And, people were checking and referencing the document as recently as March 2025. It's really a foundational piece of environmental law, still very much active.
Okay, so let's start right at the beginning, the big picture. Why this act? What was it trying to achieve?
Well, at its core, CARA is all about making sure our agricultural land stays healthy and productive, for the long term. The act itself says its main purpose is, and I'm quoting loosely here, to provide for control over the utilization of the natural agricultural resources in order to promote the conservation of the soil, the water sources, and the vegetation and the combating of weeds and invader plants. So pretty clear.
Control and conservation.
Exactly. And if you connect that to the bigger picture, think sustainability. Section 3, which lays out the objects, it talks about maintaining the production potential of land, but also, critically, combating and preventing erosion, protecting water sources from weakening or, destruction, protecting the vegetation and fighting those weeds and invader plants. It's really about looking after the very foundation of our food production and our ecosystems.
That makes a lot of sense. But you know how it is with legal texts, the definitions can sometimes trip you up.
Yeah.
What are some of the key terms we really need to get our heads around for FRA?
Yes. Excellent point. Section 1, the definition section, is crucial. For instance, natural agricultural resources. Sounds straightforward, right?
Yeah, soil, water, plants.
Pretty much. The Act defines it as the soil, the water sources, and the vegetation, but, and this is important, it excludes weeds and invader plants.
Right, because you don't want to conserve those.
Precisely. The Act wants to combat them. So that exclusion sets a very clear scope. Then there's conservation. It's not just about, putting a fence around something. The Act says it includes the protection, recovery, and reclamation of those resources. It's an active, ongoing process. Protection, fixing damage, bringing things back.
Okay, active management. Got it.
Then a really big one, land user. This is super broad. It's not just the person who owns the title deed. It includes anyone with a personal or real right. Think fiduciaries, lessees, even a local authority managing, say, commonage land. Anyone using or controlling the land.
So responsibility is spread wider than just ownership.
Exactly. Stewardship is the key idea, but interestingly, it specifically excludes people doing prospecting or mining. Those activities fall under different laws.
Okay, and weeds.
Right. Weed and invader plant. These aren't just any annoying plant in your garden. They're specific kinds declared by the minister. And the definition is clever. It includes the seeds or any part that can reproduce itself, makes it much harder for them to spread legally.
Very comprehensive.
And finally, soil conservation work. This covers a whole range of things. It's not just building a big dam. It's anything designed to protect the land, preventing erosion, improving vegetation cover, draining waterlogged areas, protecting water quality, stopping dams from silting up. Could be contour banks, could be planting specific grasses, any structure or action, really.
So understanding those terms really unlocks the rest of it, doesn't it? Whether you're prepping for an exam or just interested in how the land around you is managed, it's clearly not just about big farms.
Definitely not. It impacts land management across the board.
Okay, so we've got the why and the what. Let's dig into the how. How does KRA actually function on the ground? Who enforces it? And what sort of powers do they have?
Well, the day-to-day running falls to an executive officer. This person is appointed by the minister, as laid out in Section 4. This officer and other people they authorize, they have pretty significant powers to make sure the Act's goals are met. They're the boots on the ground, so to speak.
Right. And here's where it gets really interesting, I think. How does the Act actually stop bad things from happening? Does it have teeth?
Oh, absolutely. It has both preventative measures and some pretty strong enforcement tools. First off, there's a direct prohibition of the spreading of weeds in Section 5. You cannot sell, advertise, or even move weeds around, period.
Wow, just a flat ban.
Yep. And the executive officer has real power here. If they find, say, seed or grain or even hay that's got weeds mixed in, they can order it sent back where it came from, order it to be cleaned, or even order it destroyed.
Destroyed, really?
And get this, if weeds are found on an animal being moved, they can order the animal to be cleaned. Imagine the hassle for a farmer or a feed supplier if they're not careful.
Yeah, serious implications. Okay, what else?
Then, the minister can prescribe control measures. This is Section 6. These are broader rules for all land users. They can cover basically everything related to land management, cultivating virgin soil, how you irrigate, preventing waterlogging, protecting water sources, managing grazing capacity, like how many animals the land can support, dealing with wildfires. It even goes into restoring eroded land and stopping pollution from farming activities. These measures are the how-to guide for responsible land use under the Act.
So general rules for everyone or specific groups?
Exactly. And building on that, if the general rules aren't enough or if a specific problem arises, the executive officer can issue directions. That's Section 7. These are specific orders given to a particular land user. You must do X to comply with this control measure, or you need to perform this specific action because it's necessary for conservation.
Like a direct instruction.
Precisely. And these directions are serious business. They can be published officially or served directly. And here's the kicker. They are binding not just on the current land user, but also on their successor in title.
Wow, so the obligation stays with the land.
It does. It ensures that crucial conservation efforts aren't dropped just because the land changes hands. It locks in that long-term commitment.
Okay, so that's definitely the stick side of things. Prohibitions, rules, orders. But conservation can be expensive, right? Does the Act offer any help? Any carrot?
Yes, very much so. That balance is crucial. Sections 8 and 9 deal with schemes. The minister, working with the Minister of Finance, can set up programs to provide financial help.
Ah, okay. Like what kind of help?
Quite a range, actually. Things like subsidies to help pay for building soil conservation works, help for repairing damage caused by floods or droughts, those natural disasters, support for farmers who have to reduce their livestock numbers during a severe drought to prevent the land being totally destroyed.
It's practical.
Very. Also, funding to help restore eroded land or plant specific crops that improve the soil. And, importantly, assistance in fighting those weeds and invader plants we talked about.
Yeah.
That could be providing weed killers or even sending out departmental teams to help.
So it acknowledges the cost and provides support.
Exactly. It recognizes that good stewardship sometimes needs a helping hand. It's not just about enforcing rules, it's also about enabling compliance. And there's more direct action possible, too. Under Section 11, the minister has powers to perform certain acts directly. The department can actually go onto land and do the necessary conservation work itself.
So the government can step in and do the work.
Yes. Normally, they'd recover the costs from the landowner, but the minister can waive those costs if the work is being done for, say, public demonstration or research, like using a piece of land to show best practices. And officials doing this work have the right to enter the land, bring equipment, even take materials like sand or stone needed for the job, though there's provision for compensation for temporary camps or materials taken.
Okay, so if you get help or the state does work, you have to keep it up.
Precisely. That's Section 12. Maintenance of soil conservation works and certain states of affairs. If a conservation work is built, maybe with a subsidy, or if the land's condition is improved because of an action under the Act, the land user and whoever comes after them has to maintain it at their own cost. They could be forced to repay any financial assistance they received, or they could be issued a direction ordering them to repair the work. It really underlines that conservation is an ongoing responsibility.
This act seems incredibly comprehensive. Thinking about the broader picture, what are some of the legal or real-world implications that might, surprise people, especially those interested in how law shapes things?
Well, one of the most powerful and perhaps controversial provisions is Section 14, expropriation of land.
Expropriation, taking land.
Yes. If the minister genuinely believes it's necessary to restore or reclaim the natural agricultural resources on a piece of land to achieve the Act's objectives, they have the power to expropriate it. Now, this is a massive power. It shows just how seriously the state views the conservation of these resources, potentially even above individual property rights, in extreme cases where the land itself is degrading badly. It operates under the Expropriation Act of 1975, so there are procedures and compensation rules. It's not arbitrary, but the power exists.
Wow. That's significant.
Definitely. And here's something else really fascinating. Section 13. The minister can actually order payments between neighboring landowners.
Between neighbors. How does that work?
Okay, imagine this. Landowner A is ordered to build, or chooses to build, a soil conservation work, maybe contour banks or a small dam. But this work ends up significantly increasing the value of landowner B's property next door, perhaps by preventing erosion onto their land or improving water runoff.
Right. So B benefits from A's work and expense.
Exactly. In that situation, the minister can order landowner B to pay some compensation to landowner A. And it works the other way, too. If a necessary conservation work on A's land decreases the value of B's land, the minister could order A to compensate B.
That's incredible. It really highlights how interconnected neighboring land is. One person's actions directly affect the other.
Precisely. It acknowledges that farm boundaries aren't ecological boundaries. What you do on your land can help or harm your neighbor, and the Act provides a mechanism to address that financially. It's quite unique.
It really makes you think differently about property lines. Now, is all this decision-making coming straight from the minister or the executive officer? Or are there advisory bodies involved? Local input.
Good question. No, it's not entirely top-down. The Act sets up a really interesting tiered advisory structure, which is vital for getting that local knowledge and buy-in. At the local level, you have conservation committees established for specific areas under Section 15. Their job is to promote conservation locally and advise the department. And importantly, the members are mostly land users themselves, often nominated by local farmers associations. So you get practical, on-the-ground experience feeding into the system.
Okay, so farmers advising farmers, essentially.
To a large extent, yes. Then, above them, Section 16 establishes regional conservation committees. They advise the local committees and also feed information up to the national level. And at the top, there's the Conservation Advisory Board, Section 17. This board advises the minister directly on the big policy stuff like prescribing those control measures we talked about, or setting up new financial schemes. It includes people from the regional committees and also representatives from the South African Agricultural Union. So it's designed as a collaborative structure, mixing government oversight with input from the agricultural community itself.
That structure seems pretty well thought out, actually, blending central control with local expertise.
It does seem designed to foster cooperation rather than just impose rules.
Okay, so what happens if someone just ignores a direction, or spreads weeds, or doesn't maintain a conservation work? How does the Act handle non-compliance? What are the teeth?
Right, accountability. The Act has clear mechanisms. First, there are powers of investigation under Section 18. Officers can enter land to check for things like erosion, weeds, the condition of the vegetation, water pollution. They can inspect any soil conservation works, look at relevant documents, take samples, take photos. It's quite thorough, allowing them to monitor compliance effectively.
So they can check up on things.
Definitely. And importantly, if someone feels they've been treated unfairly by an officer, maybe they disagree with the direction. Section 21 provides the right to appeal to the minister. That's a crucial check on administrative power.
Okay, an appeal process. Good. And if someone is found to be breaking the rules?
Then come the penalties, Section 23, and they can be quite stiff. For the more serious offenses, like spreading weeds deliberately or failing to comply with a binding control measure or direction, you could be looking at fines up to R10,000 or even imprisonment for up to 4 years, especially for repeat offenses.
That's significant.
It is. Even smaller things like refusing to receive a direction when it's served or hindering an officer doing their job can lead to fines or a few months in jail.
And does the blame stop with the person who actually did the act? What about employers?
Good point. Section 25 deals with the liability of an employer or principal. Basically, an employer can be held responsible if their employee or agent commits an offense under the Act while doing their job. The employer can escape liability, but they have to prove they took all reasonable steps to prevent the offense and that it wasn't part of the employee's normal duties or instructions. So it puts pressure on employers to manage their staff responsibly regarding conservation.
Makes sense. Any protection for officials acting in good faith?
Yes, Section 28 provides limitation of liability. It protects the state, the minister, officials, committee members, anyone acting in good faith under the Act from legal action. This is important so people aren't afraid to actually implement the law. And just thinking about the bigger legal picture again, CRA itself is an example of how law evolves. Section 30 and the schedule show that CRA actually repealed older laws like the Weeds Act from 1937 and the Soil Conservation Act from 1969.
So it pulled everything together.
Exactly. It wasn't just adding a new rule here or there. It was a deliberate consolidation, creating one stronger, more comprehensive framework for managing agricultural resources. It replaced fragmented legislation with a unified approach.
Wow. That really was a deep dive. From understanding what a land user actually is, all the way to the power of expropriation and that fascinating system of advisory committees.
Mm.
It's so clear this act is much, much more than just words on paper. It's a living framework, really quite forward-thinking, designed to protect these absolutely vital assets, our soil, our water, our vegetation.
Precisely. It really does highlight that balance between proactive steps, the schemes, the advice, and the reactive measures, the enforcement, all aimed at making agriculture sustainable. It gives the legal backing needed to promote healthy ecosystems and keep land productive, using that mix of enforcement, support, and crucially, that community and expert involvement through the committees. It recognized early on that you can't have a healthy agricultural sector without healthy natural resources.
It definitely makes you think. And maybe here's a thought for you, our listener. We're facing huge challenges now: climate change, water scarcity, food security becoming bigger and bigger issues globally. How do laws like KRA, written decades ago, continue to shape how we approach looking after our environment today? And what stands out to you about that balance KRA tries to strike, between the rights of an individual landowner and the collective need, the public good of consuming these shared resources for the long term? Definitely something to ponder. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the Conservation of Agricultural Resources Act. We hope you feel a bit more informed, maybe sparks some curiosity about the laws governing our natural world. Until next time, keep digging for those insights.